Hello, hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Emily. This is my channel, Books for Life. So today I'm here to finally wrap up what I read in February. During the month of February, I participated in the adultathon readathon, which I was a big old dummy, and I just thought it was like, haha, adulting problems, and then like prompts to go with that. But it was like, haha, adulting problems plus read adult books. So I had chosen like quite a bit of YA, and so throughout the month I tried to swap it out a little bit, but it is what it is at this point. So here are the books that I read. So I only read 7 books. I started an 8th book, but I didn't finish it during the month of February, so I'm actually going to talk about it during my March wrap-up because it is actually a mystery book and it goes nicely with it, and I read most of it, I'd say, in the month of March, so I'm putting it there. So the first prompt was Monday, don't we wish it was still yesterday, to read a historical fiction or a classic book. And for that prompt, I chose Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It was fun, it was feminist, it had like the sexual tension that I was looking for, you had the historical aspect. So you follow this girl named Annabelle Archer, and she gets into Oxford, and it's 1879, and she is recruited to try to help change some laws that have gone in that restrict women's rights. And she is recruited by this women's activist group, and her job is to kind of get this Duke Montgomery on their side. And they kind of like hit it off a little bit, and it's their story. I really enjoyed it. I will definitely be reading more of the League of Extraordinary Women because that's like part of the series that she's starting, and I thought it was a lot of fun. So the prompt for Tuesday was, is it only the start of the week? Black coffee, please. Please read a novel with dark themes. And for that, I had chosen The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden, and I loved this. This I gave 5 out of 5. It might be my first 5 out of 5 of the entire year so far. I just was blown away with the story. I loved the darkness. Like, it's like a fairy tale-esque story with historical fiction, and I loved the fairy tale-ness of it. I am excited to read the next one. Actually, I have plans to read the second one on my April TBR. I don't know if that's posted yet or if this one is, but I loved it. I'm excited. If you haven't read this and you like dark historical fantasy fiction mashups, then definitely check this out. It was a really fun read. So the Wednesday prompt was Happy Hump Day. Read a book with over 350 pages. And at first I had thought I was going to read Sherwood or Curse So Dark and Lonely, but they're still sitting there on my shelves because they are both YA. And instead I chose to read The Girls by Emma Cline because this is an adult novel. And my mom actually gifted this to me either last year or the Christmas before. So I've had it for a couple years, and I've always wanted to get around to reading it. So this was the perfect opportunity for me. And this takes place during the 60s, and you follow this main character. Her name is Evie, and she is kind of an outcast. I want to say she's like 14, maybe she's 15, and she it has a falling out with one of her friends, and she ends up going to the park because she sees these 2 girls, or this group of 3 girls, I can't remember which, and she's kind of enchanted by them, and then she runs into them yet again. Turns out they're actually part of this cult group, and she really becomes enthralled and mesmerized by this one girl out of that group, and she begins going to their ranch and hanging out with them, and she begins really becoming involved, and then some sort of horrible event happens, and she's kind of caught up in the mix. And this does alter timelines. You have Evie now as I want to say she's in her 40s, maybe late 30s, and then you have Evie when she was 14, going through this, and you see how she's coping now and what she went through then. And it was a really interesting story. I didn't think it was amazing. However, I do think that it is an interesting story where you can see the power of adoration, especially at a really young age, and how that can affect you, and manipulation here with the ranch leader, and how he had just completely manipulated this whole group of people into following him and his way of life and getting them to do whatever he wanted. those things were really prominent, and I think it's fascinating. I did give this 3 out of 5 stars. It was a very interesting read. It is not one that I will put in my classroom library. I don't feel the need to put it in my classroom library. It does have adult themes in it and adult acts in it. It's very mature, but I did think it was an interesting story. So Thursday was Let's Pretend It's Friday. Adults can have fun too. Read a book by an author you love or continue a series that you love. And so for this, I ended up listening to King of Crows by Liva Bray. Now this is the final book in the Diviners series. I loved it. I wasn't as blown away with it as I was kind of hoping I could be. I still am giving this 5 out of 5 stars. I cried at some points during this story. It definitely still had me like completely emotionally involved. I do think though that it did drag a little bit. I think that she could have shortened it. I thought the ending was interesting. It wasn't quite what I was expecting, but I did really enjoy it. I loved how some of the things did turn out. It definitely was an emotional roller coaster. It still had that really creepy horror vibe to it, which is part of the reason why I love this so much. Like, I really don't like horror stories, but like I love the elements of horror that this world incorporated. So I gave that one again 5 out of 5 stars. Friday was We Survived the Week. Give your eyes a rest and read a book either under 100 pages or an audiobook. And for that, I listened to the last book in the Air Awakens series, Crystal Crowned. So if you missed my January wrap-ups, there's 2. I talked about how I really enjoyed books 1 and 2 of the Air Awakens series, and then I really hated 3, and I thought 4 was like a little bit better. So I felt like this kind of went like meh, like it didn't quite get back up to where it was. I did think that book number 5 turned it around a little bit. To be honest, I'm actually kind of struggling to remember everything that happened in it. It's definitely not a memorable ending to a 5-book long series. I thought it was fine. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I really thought the first 2 books were really good. Like, I loved them. And 3, 4, and 5 were just okay. Just as like a quick refresher, Air Awakens is a fantasy world, and you have elemental magic. You have firebenders and water bearers and earth shakers, and all of them kind of like use their magic in different ways, and the people who bear magic are kind of like ostracized in society, but there hasn't been an airbender in like 100 years, and the first one comes around, and it's that story. It's very tropey, but I didn't mind that in the beginning. The next prompt was Saturday, live it up, buddy read something with friends. And for this, I read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston because my Facebook group I'm part of the book one, was reading this as their group read. So it was perfect. It had the like little like romantic elements that I wanted because it was like, you know, the month of love. I wasn't blown away with this. I thought it was fine. Like, I thought it was a fine read. I liked like the banter between them. I thought it was a fine romance. I liked the politics. I thought that was kind of interesting. I did feel like at times it was like a little too over the top. Oh my gosh, so the mom was like really, really funny when she found out that her son, because she's the president, had a thing going with the Prince of England. She like made this PowerPoint and she was like, reasons not to date the Prince of England. And it was like, I don't know, I just thought that was really funny that she made like a PowerPoint. Like, I wonder if when my son starts dating, like if I'll be like, PowerPoint, like rules of dating, wear a shirt that doesn't have stains on it. Or I don't know, like I wonder how I'll go about this. I just thought that was really funny. I really enjoyed some of the side characters too. I thought this was fine. I think I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It was a nice romance. And the final book that I read and the final prompt was Sunday, the day to stay at home. Read a book that has a film adaptation. And I kind of bent the rules a little bit because I chose Coral by Sarah Ella, and this doesn't really have a specific adaptation. However, this follows the original Hans Andersen Christian's like version of The Little Mermaid, and obviously we have lots of Little Mermaid retelling, so I counted it. I thought this was really interesting. This is a mental health story, absolutely. There are themes of depression, anxiety, suicide, so those are some trigger warnings for you just in case those may upset you. I did think at first it was a little jarring. So you have 3 different perspectives you start with. You have Coral, Brooke, and Merrick. And I just, like, all of the stories end up making sense, but in the beginning, like, Coral is the Little Mermaid and you're following her. And then you jump to Brooke, who is in a mental health facility, and then you jump to Merrick, who is the son of a pretty large businessman, and the father is like trying to groom him so that he can like take over, and the son really doesn't want anything to do with him. So you have like 3 extremely different plot lines happening, and you're jumping, like, it goes not like always cyclical. It's not always like Coral, Brooke, Merrick, Coral, Brooke, Merrick, but usually it is. And because each story is so different in the beginning, it was hard for me to like get back in the mindset. Like, I wanted to learn a little bit more about like the Little Mermaid's world, Coral's world, and then I wanted to learn a little bit more about Brooke's world, like before we moved on, if that makes sense. I do think that this has some really important messages in it. I think this is one I will definitely be putting in my classroom, and I did enjoy it. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. So I did fairly well during the month of February as far as my reading goes. I'm pretty happy. 7 books is a fair amount. Obviously 2 of them were audiobooks, and some of them were like really long audiobooks. Like the Air Awakens was like 18 hours long, and King of Crows was 20 something. So those were thick books too. But I'm happy. I did well with my adultathon. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give a thumbs up and don't forget to hit subscribe. I'll be back for a bookish video soon. As always, keep reading.